Hello, everybody. So today I decided that more so than anything, I feel like I read so many books in a year. Last year I averaged 100. The year before that I hit 75. And I've just been slowly increasing the pace at which I read. And I have seen so many wonderful things in the book community. And so I figured that I might as well put my thoughts of books online just to hear other people's thoughts on it and really jump into this reading community. I'm currently a part of two different book clubs, which I thoroughly enjoy and have a great time talking to like minded people and even people with different interests in reading because it's just so fun to hear everyone's thoughts and opinions. So, that being said, I thought it would be fun to put up my February. Completed books. This month I read 15 total books. And in general, I am a theme reader. I really enjoy that seasonal vibe. And so obviously, February 14th, I was definitely in the mood for my romances. I mean, come on, romance girlies. You know. If you know, you know. And so I was super excited, with the exception of one min fantasy, which is, of course, the new Sarah J. Maas that just came out with the Crescent City, and I'm repping with the House of Jupiter sweater, which I just think is so cute. This Mossiverse sweater that she's got going on with all three representations of the series, and you can definitely see my Throne of Glass series in the back there. So I figured it'd be a fun opportunity to just go through the books and talk about each one. So the first book that I read was By a Thread, which, in my humble opinion, is absolutely adorable. I personally rated this about 3.75 stars because I did feel like it wasn't quite a 5-star read for me. Definitely gave me all the feels. I absolutely adore the main characters, and it's very much grumpy, sunshine romance trope, and it's just so cute. I think the male character is redeemed at the end of the book. Some of the things that he did really make me irritated, and I was really frustrated with Dominic's characters in some parts of the book. And I think Allie is just super sunshine, super cute, super adorable. Very, very, very fun reads. For me personally, there were certain scenes that hit home, in particular in relation to family relationships, best friend relationships, things like that. I do feel like some of the miscommunication that happened in this book, though, irked me a little bit, which is why it's slightly lower from that 4 or 5-star read for me, but definitely would recommend. And as always, you can't go wrong with the Lucy Score book, right? So that was book number 1. Book number 2 would be the Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I read the Caraval series last year and absolutely enjoyed the series, the romantasy vibes, the carnival setting, the magical, mystical vibes of, the carnival and just Legends character, Donatella and Scarlet, all the main characters of that series I really, really enjoyed. And so this series happens to feature one of the main characters from the Caraval series that I absolutely adore. And so I had to read this and figure out what happened to him. And I just love the universe that Stephanie Garber created with this series. What I will say about this particular book is that it is not hard to jump into for anyone who has a little bit of nervousness when it comes to romantasies or fantasies in general, just because of the world building and trying to understand and comprehend the politics of the world. This was a great, great, great first read series. Would highly recommend for anyone looking to get into romantasy. Very easy to follow, very easy to jump into, and just so, so, so much fun. So this particular book, I gave a 4 stars. I did really enjoy this book. I had an absolute blast with just getting to know the characters and getting to know the plot of the book. It was definitely very cute and centered around this female character who's just very, very, you know, loving, kind, but also has some moral grayness, which makes her a fun character to read because she does some rash decision making that then gets her in trouble. But overall, just a very wonderful character. As far as the noise going on in the background, it is that black lump over there, which is my beautiful, beautiful cat, Bella, but she does not listen to anything we tell her. So please ignore her in the background. Or, if you enjoy her, that's fine too. Feel free to take a peek at my beautiful baby over there, but please ignore the noises that she's making. I do apologize. So that was the first book in Once Upon a Broken Heart series, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, which then made me jump straight into the second book, The Ballad of Never After. Now, this book I personally felt like was even better than Once Upon a Broken Heart. A solid 4.25 stars for me. So much more fun, so much more character development. Really, really enjoyed the new characters that were introduced in this book as well, and just loved the storyline of this one. More like balls and dancing and magic and adventuring, and it's so much fun. Absolutely would recommend. Also has some like fun little twists with vampires and that type of thing. So just really, really, really fun read. The final book in the series, A Curse for True Love, was another one that I read this month. For me personally, I know a lot of people didn't love this one as much as the other two books, but this was actually my 5-star. I don't know why I loved it as much as I did. Excuse me. But I do feel like in general, this book was just so much fun because of the simple fact that it wraps the story up really nicely, and it really showcases the characters that have been introduced throughout the series and really fleshes out the storylines of each of these characters and how they intertwine together, and kind of gives you a little bit of backstory and understanding of one of the main characters in particular, who is Jax, the character that I wanted to follow from the Caraval series as well. So I really enjoyed this book. I think it was a beautiful way of ending the series. I had so much fun reading it, and I would strongly recommend for anyone who is interested. This was probably the highest rated in the series for me. Please excuse me for 30 seconds while I let my dear cat outside. You want to say hi to everyone first? You want to say hi? Let's go say hi. Say hi, Bells. Say hello. She's not having it. Yes. There you go. Oh, we have a different guest visitor now. Come here. This is our other baby. Yeah, this is my other baby. Hi, say hi. This is Minnie. This is our little Minerva Taco. She's my reading buddy. She's my little sweet baby girl. And we named her that because now we have mini Taco Bells running around the house, courtesy of my husband picking her name. So moving on from that, the next book up on the list was Flawless from the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. I know this has been really popular. It popped up on YouTube, Book Talk, all the vibes about this book, especially if you're in for a cowboy romance. I will say this was also very enjoyable. Again, very much your grumpy sunshine vibes. I just thought the story plot was very cute, and just a fun palate cleansing romance if you're in the mood for it. It has all the vibes, so would definitely recommend. I gave this a 3.75 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star hit for me, but I did enjoy it enough where I do want to continue the series, and I've already purchased them with the alternative covers. So super excited to dig into that at a future date, but would recommend for anyone looking for a fun cowboy vibe and just like, the grumpy sunshine mood. Next up, this book was so much fun for me. I know this has had mixed reviews on the internet, and I know some people have really enjoyed the book and wanted to continue the series, but it wasn't their favorite book. This book for me was everything. So this book is called The Bromance Book Club, and it's just so much fun because the whole concept of the book is that the main character and his wife are going through the process of potentially starting divorce, and their marriage is just on the rocks. And he's a professional athlete, and the whole story plot is that he is invited by some of his athlete friends and professionals in this like very manly testosterone-filled world to join together and read romance novels in order to learn how to talk to women. And the whole story plot is how they help him get his woman back. And this book was everything for me. I think it was so refreshing. I think it was written absolutely beautifully. The novel that they quote unquote choose to give to him to read is just absolutely amazing Regency novel, like just absolutely great book. I'm also recently married, so for me personally, this was just really fun to read. And I fully plan on making my husband read this at some point in time. But again, loved the series so much that I already purchased the next four. So I am excited to dive into this series, but would definitely recommend. This was a 5-star for me personally. Loved it. Fast paced read, easy read, fun read. Lots of memorable quotes in the book for me. Just really, really fun altogether. Next up, I have Funny You Should Ask. This book is a very, very cute book that basically follows the story of a author who is a journalist and her relationship with a movie star that she interviewed, and it's kind of a second chance romance. It has a back and forth perspective between current times and flashbacks, and it has like cute little journal article snippings and newspaper clippings that kind of talk about this article that she wrote, which has kind of tied these two characters together. It tells the story primarily from her perspective, but you do get a few bits here and there of his perspective as well. And overall, just like really, really cute, fun second chance romance. For me, this was a little bit on the nose in terms of the storyline, a little predictable for me. So I didn't enjoy it as much as I would have, I think, if it was a little less predictable. But that being said, I do think for a fun, cozy, like romance vibe read, this is so much fun. And being set in LA and us having recently moved to, California, it has been a very fun read. Would definitely recommend for anyone who's interested, but a solid 3-star from me. Both the Funny You Should Ask and the Bromance Book Clubs were the books that we read for my 2 different book clubs, and it was so much fun discussing both books with all of my book club girlies. We had an absolute blast, and I do think that if you're in the mood for a good palate cleanser romance, they're fun to read, but also great to discuss with any of your girlfriends or guy friends who might be interested in just having a nice, refreshing palate cleanser read. The next book that I read was actually inspired by Netflix. So Bridgerton is obviously a very popular series that got released on Netflix, and it has been just received with so much positivity. And I remember that first season when it came out. Oh my gosh, my best friend and I, we binged that stuff. And let me tell you, as a medical resident at the time, was it my smartest moment? No. Was it worth every single minute of not having sleep on my weekend off? Absolutely. So if you have not seen that series, please go watch it. That first season is absolutely adorable and just so cute and so much fun. And the casting of the characters was done beautifully. So that being said, I finally decided to tap into Julia Quinn. And just look at how beautiful this cover is. So this was the Illumicrate version that was released, and they did all of the books with all of the prints on the physical hardcover. So there is no other cover on these books. And the beauty of these is that when you put all the spines together, it creates the Bridgerton house. And it's just absolutely stunning, in my opinion. I don't know if Illumicrate still sells these or if they're doing a restock of them, but just absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous covers. So naturally, sticking with my pink theme of books as well as my romance books this year for Valentine's month, I decided that I wanted to pick up the first book by Julia Quinn, The Duke and I. And this was absolutely amazing. Such a cute read. And honestly, the banter in particular between the mom and her sons and her daughter is just so cute. And then of course, like being set in a completely different time period back when we were still having, courting and women coming out for the season of the Ton. It was absolutely just to die for a read. I think the Gossip Girl vibes of this with the the scandal sheets that come out are just absolutely amazing. And it's definitely worth the read. I think in general, if you're looking for just something fun, light, happy, Gossip Girl vibes, but more Regency, this is the way to go. Would definitely recommend. And I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this book. Again, solid 4 stars for me. Next up, I have Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. When in Rome was actually the first book in this particular series, but they are standalone novels. And the thing I liked about this book in particular, like obviously with a lot of these romances, you can kind of predict that the couples are going to, hopefully end up together by the end. So while it does kind of sum up what happened in the previous book in terms of the relationship, it doesn't give too much away from the plot line of the first book. So I do plan on going back and reading the first book. I didn't realize it was a series when I picked up this book. I thought they were standalones completely, so I didn't make that connection. But I will say I was able to easily enjoy this book, and it didn't take away from anything at all for me to read this before the second one. This book was super, super cute. I guess I would kind of call it a Grumpy Sunshine vibes again with this one, like super sweet, super awkward girl who's like, the hometown, like, darling, and like everyone's looking after her, small town vibes. And then in comes this burly bodyguard, and everyone's like kind of confused as to what to make of them. Actually, I lied. This is not Grumpy Sunshine. This is definitely fake dating. I apologize for saying what I said. Definitely fake dating trope. So much fun. I absolutely ate this book up. I thought it was super, super cute. Very, very fun book. While I would say I was reading it. After I finished the book and I sat on it, unfortunately, it was one of those books where it was like definitely in the moment vibes, but afterwards didn't spend too much time thinking about it or, contemplating it. So I would say for me, again, this is a solid 3-star read. But for me, 3 stars is not bad. 3 stars basically means that it was a solid read. It was a good time while it happened, but nothing that like pulled out emotions and made me like overly contemplate the book that has just like skyrocketed my life and completely changed it. So I would say this was like a solid 3 stars for me. I do think the book was written very, very well, and I think it was a very fun, entertaining, fake dating romance book. I would definitely recommend for anyone who's looking for that vibe, but definitely very enjoyable, very cute, solid. I think 3-star for me. I still plan on reading When in Rome, so that will happen probably closer to the summertime for me because that's usually when I start picking up the romances again. Next up, I have Love in the Time of Serial Killers. This book was super, super cute. I think, again, I would give this a slightly lower rating simply because of the fact that in the middle, it got a little bit slow for me. But I think in terms of character development and kind of growing the story plot, it was very cute. Very, very pricklish main female character, which was kind of fun to see, like awkward, prickly, like kind of like dark vibes, history of a little bit of trauma in her life. So it was very entertaining to read her perspective and the way she interacted with people. And then the main character, romance character interest, the male in this book is just an absolute teddy bear. He was so much fun to read, like just so sweet, just breaking down all her walls. And it was really cute. I think for me, there were certain points of this book where it just frustrated me. It like truly frustrated me. Some of the decisions that she made, I was like, why? Why would you even do that? Like, what is the purpose of doing that? Like, you are pushing this person away who is making an effort in your life. And I think I really struggled with that. I definitely understood the trauma she was coming with, the baggage that she was holding on to, that kind of caused her to do those types of things. So I understand why the character was written the way she was written. It was just a little frustrating for me, I feel. And so that being said, this was like a solid 2.75 stars for me. It wasn't quite that 3 mark just because of how frustrated I got with it. But I do think overall, very, very cute, fun read. And the writing style is definitely enjoyable for sure. The way that the author writes the book is very cute. The secondary characters are honestly what makes this book as well. Like her brother and his girlfriend are just absolutely adorable in this book. So would definitely recommend for anyone who's interested in a quick read. And I do think that it does have certain elements that could be classified as being on the spooky vibe just because she is studying serial killers and doing a PhD in that subject matter. So they do talk about some of the more mainstream serial killers, I would say, like your Ted Bundys and things like that. So I would say if you guys are, mood readers and you wanted to keep it romance and lighter, like it could potentially work for October as well, if that's your thing. But I do think it's primarily a romance and it is very, very cute. Next up for me was Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. Oh my gosh, Lynn Painter does it again. This book for me was so adorable. I do think it was really, really fun reading both perspectives and characters of the female and the male character, and just seeing how the female character is initially portrayed as this hot mess. And then as you get to know her perspective and her personality, you kind of understand how she keeps getting herself into these like ridiculous scenarios and situations. As far as the main guy goes, he was a little beefcake for me, very much like not too much beyond the surface until you get further into the book. I think as we got further into the book, we got to see a little bit more of his personality and like what he was about. And then it was a little bit more easier for me to attach to his character. But in general, Lynn Painter's writing, whether it be her young adult books, which I have all the hard copies back there of, or it be the adult romance books, I think that she just has this way of writing where it just makes your heart sing. Just absolutely sweet, sweet vibes. Very fast paced read, very easy read. And I mean, look at this cover. Look at how pink, look at how Barbie this is. Like I was just like, yes, I have to read this in February. So would definitely recommend. This was like a solid 3.75 stars for me. Probably could even push it to a 4 just because I love this author. I will read anything this author releases, and I'm looking very much forward to the book she's releasing in March. Coming up, which I think is called Never After. But I'm thrilled to read that book as well. Also available on Book of the Month for anyone who is not a Book of the Month subscriber. It is a great service. This is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form, but they do an amazing job of curating books for us to choose from. And they usually have anywhere between 5 to 7 book selections per month, along with spotlight titles, any new releases that are coming out that are pretty much mass favorites. And they have different genres of books that they kind of are showcasing each month as well. So like contemporary fiction, thriller, romantasy, sometimes even nonfiction. So really it's up to the reader what they want to select. They have pretty much something for everyone. And if there's ever a month where you don't want to pick a book, you can skip that month and keep your credit and not get charged. So you can always cash that in at a later date. They've also now started doing audio versions of books as well. So if you're more of an audio reader over a physical reader, those are also options available to you. But absolutely love Book of the Month, which was a tangent there. I do apologize. But I do think that they are also carrying the new Lynn Painter book for the month of March for anyone who's interested in joining or possibly receiving that book. And there's multiple people online who do sponsor with Book of the Month and have codes where you can get your first box for like $5. So definitely something to consider. And all the books that they send out physically are hardbacks. So definitely worth looking into. But coming back to Lynn Painter's Mr. Wrong Number, absolutely love this book and will read anything this woman publishes for sure. Found out about this author through Haley Pham, who I absolutely enjoy watching, and she is just so cute. And Haley was actually saying in one of her videos that Lynn was kind enough to include her and all of her readers in her acknowledgments for the book, which I mean, that's just amazing. Speaks to what kind of a woman this woman is. Just absolutely beautiful writing, very, very sunshine vibes, so much fun, and would recommend to anyone who's interested. Next up, I have The Heart Principle by Helen Hoang, as well as The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. I'm definitely late to the party on both of these books. I had heard a lot about these books when they first released a few years ago, but never really jumped at it or got into it. But I have to say they're very, very interesting. There is a spice level to these books for sure. They are very salacious. I would probably say like a solid 3 chili spice rating for these books. So if you do want to avoid spice and you don't want to really like tap into that, these are going to be harder to read because they are a huge proponent of the book, particularly the Kiss Quotient, because the concept of this book is she hires an escort to teach her how to date because she doesn't know how to date men or talk to men. And the Heart Principle is a little less physical. It's more about, going through the process of unraveling her mental, anxieties and dealing with the new diagnosis of a form of autism or being on the spectrum. So definitely has a lot of depth to it. There are definitely very, very interesting female lead characters in the sense that a lot of times we don't see female characters in romance books with mental disorders such as autism or being on the spectrum. And these really, I think, do a good job of exploring that and kind of showing how those situations should be approached and how to navigate those types of interactions. I think she did a beautiful job of writing these novels as well as writing those experiences and discussing like the different types of ways that you can process information in terms of just sensory information, whether it be through touch, smell, vision, sight, whatever it might be. I think she does a great job of kind of showcasing how some people who have history of, or autism or other, difficulties, or not, I don't want to say difficulties because that just sounds like there's something wrong with people. I'm not saying that at all. Like, I feel like you can lead a very fulfilled life regardless of what diagnoses you may have. And I don't think a person is their diagnoses. I think it's just a component of who they are, which then affects how they interact with the world and how they learn. So I think the author just does a very good job of showcasing that and showing that these are still beautiful, wonderful women and characters that live in this modern day world, are just trying to navigate it in their own way, and how society can be so debilitating sometimes and how it can be so negative sometimes towards these conditions and look down upon people with those conditions and almost make it seem like it's their fault that things don't go a certain way. But I think this book does a really beautiful job of showing how that's not true, and they are just living their best lives, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that or with them. And it comes down to how to interact with these people in these situations. And I think the way that the romances are written are absolutely wonderful. So if that sounds in your cup of tea, then would strongly recommend both of these books. I gave them both solid 4 stars just because of the heavier topics that are involved in writing this book. The romance itself, I think, is fun and flirty and cute, and definitely I don't mind a little bit of salacious, and I don't mind skipping through scenes that are overwhelming for me. So that being said, I didn't mind those scenes, but I would like to give warnings for spice for anyone who is, conscious of that particular aspect of reading. So those were those 2 books. Next up, I had a very, very highly discussed, highly controversially looked up book. It's either you love it or you hate it kind of vibes with this particular book, and that is the Magnolia Parks universe. So I finally decided to dip my toes into the water and read Jessa Hastings' first book, Magnolia Parks, which I absolutely could not deny reading because, just look at that red spine. How does that not give Valentine's vibes? So finally dug into it, into our favorite couple, Magnolia Parks and Valentine. I can honestly say that BJ and Magnolia's relationship is toxic at best. It's probably worse, to be honest, but I kind of understand where their relationship is stemming from. I do agree with a lot of the reviews out there that basically say this is Gossip Girl vibes, and I do think it's a very, very fast-paced, fun read, but in no way, shape, or form am I endorsing this type of a relationship. It's very, very toxic, very negative energy, and very, very, very poor communication, I would say, at the base of this book. But let's be real. If we want to watch drama and we want to watch that, relationship hot mess, London high society rich girl life, do we really want the best communication? Not necessarily, because that's kind of what gives you the drama. So I will say that, from that perspective, there are moments where you get really frustrated with the character. I do agree, though, that with a lot of people's assessments of Jessa's writing style is just beautiful. She's so lyrical. There are literally sections of this book that I could not not highlight. I have paragraphs that I've outlined in this book, just beautifully, beautifully written. Very, very found family vibes in this as well, which I really enjoyed. And I didn't think I would find that in this book, but I did. I really liked that development of the main characters as well as the side characters and their various like relationships with each other and how far back those relationships go. I just think in general, it's a very, very well written book. Again, hard to say I was rooting for the two main characters to end up together. I do think they both have a lot of growing up to do in order to get to that point. And as everyone else said, the end of the book just kind of wrenches your heart out a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, a very, very fun read if you approach it from the perspective of this is just meant to be a fun read. It is not meant to indicate in any way, shape, or form a healthy relationship. The fashion in this book is also so much fun. I really enjoy fashion. I have always enjoyed fashion. So that being said, like reading about the different outfits and the designers and the handbags, I mean, it was definitely fun to read that part too. And it's like every outfit is kind of described like that, which is kind of fun and cute. And I'm definitely looking forward to jumping into the Daisy Hates book in the future. And as many girlies may already know, and also men, sorry, I don't know why I keep saying girlies, but you know, Magnolia Parks also has books in the Daisy Hate realm. Recently, Magnolia Parks, the third and final book of the BJ Valentine and Magnolia Parks book was released, which is the final book in the series. And that one has also gotten rave reviews by a lot of people who have read it. I personally am obsessed with the old covers. Like, I think these covers are absolutely stunning. So I actually went ahead and bought the UK version of Magnolia Parks Into the Dark, which is the third and final book in the series. And it also matches the other covers. So I do have Magnolia Parks, The Great Undoing, also in this older cover, and I have the Daisy Hates books in these covers as well. And I just think that they're absolutely gorgeous and so much fun. Would definitely recommend for anyone looking for a fun, fast-paced read, but do not look for a healthy relationship or any kind of positive vibes in terms of the relationship from this book, but very, very fun to read. Also, there's a lot of allusions to spicy scenes, but there's no spice that's like purely discussed in this book. I would say there's a lot of hinting at it, and you definitely know where that scene is trying to take you, but there's no visual representation of those chapters. So I would say, like, I would probably rate it a 1 to 1.5 on the spice, but it is following that toxic relationship trope in high society London. So super fun read. I gave this a solid 4 stars. Looking forward to reading the rest of the series. Last but not least, we have the Sarah J. Maas House of Flame and Shadow. So this book recently released this past month, and of course I had to go pre-order this copy with the exclusive chapters in the back from the Barnes & Noble's edition. I felt like this book was so much fun. In terms of the third book being the third book in the series, I do think there was a lot of information dumping. There's definitely parts of the book where like I felt like I couldn't read it as fast as I wanted to because I had to take a step back and process what was being thrown my way by Sarah J. Maas. But I do think it was really fun read. It was a solid 4.75 for me, not quite a 5-star read, but I did really thoroughly enjoy this book. I enjoyed the repeat of some characters in this book from, you know, previous books and series that, you know, I wasn't sure if I was going to see again in her writing and in her worlds. And so this was really, really fun for me. I know a lot of people have beef with the main character in this book, Bryce. I personally had beef with her in the first book, and then in the second and the third book I started enjoying her a lot more. I started enjoying her heart. I started understanding her a little bit better, and I feel like she's not as selfless as some of the other mainstream female characters that Sarah J. Maas has written, which for me was actually kind of refreshing because I feel like in these high stake books that you're reading, a lot of times the characters are almost forced to like jump into these hero roles and like take on that mantle and just show absolute kindness and heart and barely make mistakes. And they're just such beautifully written characters that you're just like, how do you even exist in real life? Whereas I feel like with Bryce's character, she's definitely got moments where you're just like, huh? So she has that selfish streak to her. She does have moments where you're just like, bro, you're going to write off an entire people because of that, you know? Like, so she has her moments. And for me, that was actually kind of refreshing because I was like, I get to see her grow through the series too, which was really enjoyable for me. And I also think she's been through a lot of trauma. All the main characters in Sarah J. Maas, the female characters, go through trauma. Of course, of course. I'm not excusing Bryce in any way, shape, or form. I just think it's been fun watching her deal with her trauma and kind of work through it. And it feels more real to me. Like she feels like a much rawer character to me. But that being said, I do think that the third book in the Crescent City series is a fun read. Again, a lot of the secondary characters really make this book, so they're just so much fun to read. I do think the romantic relationship between Bryce and her partner Hunt in this book was almost painful to read. Like they were frustrating me a lot. And romance wasn't the main aspect and plot of this book, but some of the secondary characters, like, oh my God, if you know, you know. Like, I can honestly say, Lydia, I'm a Lydia girl. I'm a Lydia girl all the freaking way. So that being said, like, without any spoilers, this is a really, really fun read. And I do think that if you are reading the Sarah J. Maas series and you have, pardon me, read the Crescent City series. Sorry about that. My husband is in the kitchen making chili and I'm smelling all the chilies as they're getting cooked. So good times. But that being said, I do think the Crescent City series is a ton of fun. And I do think it's definitely worth the read. I do think as far as fantasy goes, her novels are super fun to read. But I wouldn't say that if you're a new fantasy reader and you're a little nervous about jumping into the worlds, that Crescent City is the place to start. I do think that Sarah J. Maas, in particular, if I had to recommend an order of reading this book series that she's written, I would start with the series A Court of Thorn and Roses. I do think those 5 books are absolutely phenomenal, and the world building in those books are a little bit easier to follow for sure. The first book has very Beauty and the Beast vibes, like a retelling vibe, so it's also very easy to jump into that book, I feel, and kind of grasp what's going on with the storyline and kind of follow where the story is going. I'm not saying it is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, I'm just saying it has that vibe. So I think like it's a fun read. Throne of Glass, I think the second, the young adult series that she wrote that kind of transitioned into adult is absolutely beautiful written series as well. It's a big commitment, though. It is 8 books. And so I personally enjoyed reading those books a lot. I read them last year. I thoroughly enjoyed them. I think the final book of that series is like 980 something pages, and I'm pretty sure I finished it in 2 days. Like, that's how much I love that series. It is absolutely worth every single moment and every single page of the series. But I do think it takes a little bit longer to understand that series and kind of see the plot lines and how they fall together. And it's also a little bit more challenging because in that series, the first 3 to 4 books, depending on how you read the series, are completely different world vibes than the rest of the series. So it's like you literally go from like looking at one kingdom and what's going on in one kingdom to suddenly jumping to like this entire universe of characters and like land and all this other stuff. And so I think there's a lot of dumping of information in those books. There's a lot of world building in those books. There's a lot of characters in that book, character development in that book. Like some of the main characters of that book are not even explored until book 4 and 5. So, it's like, it's worth the commitment. You will enjoy every moment of it. It can drag in certain places in certain books, but it's definitely worth the read. And by the end of it, it is life-changing. Like the number of Sarah J. Maas sweatshirts and t-shirts I now own, the paraphernalia are insane just because this woman knows how to write a book and she knows how to capture your attention. All those memes out there that are like, your girl recommended this book, secretly laughing in the background that she just committed you to 16 books. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. But I do think, coming back to the point I was trying to make, ACOTAR first, then Throne of Glass, then Crescent City series. I feel like Crescent City in general is a little bit harder to grasp in terms of the world that's being built. And the first book in particular had moments where I was really confused. But I think if you can get through all of her other books and you understand her writing style, it is easy to get into these books and enjoy them as well. I think that for me personally, in the Crescent City books so far, the second book has been the best of those books. I definitely gave that one a solid 5 stars just based on how that book ended, which I'm sure everyone and their mother has said on the internet. But I will say this is a close second with a 4.75 stars from me. And I really enjoyed watching the character development of some of the secondary characters. And I'm really, really loving the way that this book kind of progressed. The only thing is the way that the book ended. I'm very curious to see where she's going to go with the 4th book in the series. But I am excited to see, as always, what our queen, Sarah J. Maas, does. And that wraps up our February reads. So just as a quick finish, we had a House of Flame and Shadow. We had Magnolia Parks. We had The Kiss Quotient and The Heart Principle. We had Mr. Wrong Number. We had Love and the Time of Serial Killers. Practice Makes Perfect. The Duke and I. Funny You Should Ask. The Bromance Book Club. Flawless. Curse for True Love, The Ballad of Never After, Once Upon a Broken Heart, oh, and my pile's falling over. And last but not least, By a Thread. Coming out to our total of 15 for February. Please comment below what you guys read for this month, because I really want more ideas and I'm excited to hear them. And I'll be back with you in March as I start journeying into my thriller month. So if you guys are thriller lovers, look forward to those March videos. But otherwise, as always, it was so much fun talking to everybody, and I can't wait to jump into this bookish community and hear all of your thoughts. And it was such a pleasure chatting with everybody, and I can't wait for all your thoughts. Bye.